I am sure, Sandra, more people are going to trickle as the seminar start. Let me start sharing my screen. So welcome back to a SHIELD. This is a 10th SHIELD webinar. We're very glad with this series that started as a vision for bringing role models and diverse voices. And we are so excited to have Sandra Cauffman come and talk to us. And the best part that I like, that I can say it in Spanish, o en my portuñol, soñar, esforzarse y lograr de Costa Rica a Mars. In Portuguese would be soñar, esforzarse, y lograr would be conquistar, de Costa Rica a Mars. So Cauffman served as the Deputy Director of the Earth Science Division in NASA since 2016. She's also from 2019 2020 as the Acting Director in the Earth Science Division. She provides leadership, strategic direction, overall management for the entire agency Earth Science portfolio. So I'm really looking forward to hearing all about that. Before coming to NASA headquarters, she was in Goddard Space Flight Center, that is also a huge organization. I remember coming there several times. She was a ground system manager for the Hubble Space Telescope and the surveying project to serve Hubble Space Telescope, and also for many other missions listed here. And all her achievement goes on and on. She was awarded the NASA Exceptional Achievement Medal. She's a 2-time recipient of the NASA Outstanding Leadership Medal. She's a 4-time recipient of the NASA Acquisition Improvement Award. And so we are delighted to have her in here. And she was in George Mason, where I was a professor for 5 years before I moved to Boston University. So we are delighted. Let me just give an overview for people that were not here for the previous SHIELD webinars. SHIELD is a drive center. Now we're in phase 1. We are competing with other drive centers for phase 2. It's part of the last decadal survey that recommended big centers around big ideas that will transform the field. I'm the PI, and John Richardson, that I just saw join us from MIT, is a program manager. And the goal of SHIELD, or the vision, is to develop a predictive global model of the heliosphere. And SHIELD stands for solar wind with hydrogen ion charge exchange and large-scale dynamics. This was my group came up with that, my students, so you can blame them for SHIELD name. We are using a combination of modelers from global scales to localized kinetic and localized hybrid simulations, along with all the observations, both the remote and both in situ of the heliosphere. If you want to see more about what we're doing, check our website. And the main thrust, why it's interesting to study the heliosphere for other disciplines, to remind ourselves that the heliosphere is the only habitable astrosphere that we know of. There might be several other habitable astrospheres, but we haven't found a habitable planet and near a habitable star. And even if we will find our heliosphere is the only astrosphere that will have that amount of data to really probe all the physical phenomena that is happening in an astrosphere. So we feel with SHIELD, we are laying the groundwork to predict habitable astrospheres. Here's a website again. We have a big component in outreach, and the SHIELD webinar is part of this effort. And another part that if you want to reach and be part of it is the testimonials, is where we have a gallery of candid stories about what is to be a space scientist and coming to space science from a different background, whether you're an immigrant, gender fluid, whether you're from Latino experience, from African American. There's so many different path to space physics, we're having this collection of testimonials, and you can email me or shoot outreach for you if you want to be part of it. At the end of the webinar, we will hold questions for Sandra, and we also have a survey that I put the link below here, and Nick Gross is going to put in the chat for all of us. If you can fill it out after the webinar, say what you liked, what you didn't like, which other webinars you would like to hear, that will be extremely helpful for us. So with that, I will stop sharing and pass to Sandra. Go ahead, share your screen and tell your story.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that introduction and the shield overview. I can tell you that I am not going to speak about the sun or heliophysics, although the MAVEN mission does have a connection to it, and I will be I'll briefly go over some of the goals of that mission that I worked on. But for the most part, it's you know, where I come from and how I got to do what I do. So let me see if I can share this. Can you see it? And I'm going to put it in projection mode.
Yes, exactly. We can see it.
Yeah.
It's not in projection mode yet.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Okay. Can you see it on projection mode?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, let me get rid of this so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so so I'm going to speak a little bit about you know, how this girl from Costa Rica ended up working for NASA, and that's in a nutshell what I will talk about, what I will talk about in what I do. So starting from the beginning, and don't do the math. I was 7 years old when Apollo landed on the moon on July 20th, 1969. And you can imagine a 7-year-old looking at this on a black and white TV. As you know, I didn't know what NASA was. I didn't know. I only knew my backyard, my school, you know, where I worked. I was raised by a single mother, and to her, it was always very important that we continue our education. And one of the things that my mother always said is like, you know, I already made all the mistakes. You don't have to repeat history. And that's the motto for the you know, how I was raised. But this day, 20th, you know, we didn't have a TV. She wanted us to see this event that was, you know, global, and that's what grabbed this 7-year-old to pursue eventually a career in engineering and physics. At that point in time, you know, we are from a poor zone in Costa Rica, a single parent. And all I wanted to do was go to the moon. You know, of course, I never went to the moon, but that goal of going to the moon really took me to do a lot of fun things, incredible things, and I never really expected at that age, or even when I was in high school, that I was going to end up in the United States and working for NASA. But here I am. Anyways, so I went to all public schools. Nothing private. I couldn't afford it. You know, this is my elementary school picture when I graduated from elementary school. That is the image when I graduated from high school. And I have to back up a little bit. When I was 13 years old, thereabouts, my mother got really, really sick, and she ended up in the hospital for a long time. Those days, surgery wasn't just an arthroscopic surgery, but they cut you from here to there, you know, from end to end. And she was trying to, you know, recover. It was a very complicated surgery. They had to reconstruct the urethra, which is the little tube that goes from your kidney to your bladder. And she couldn't work. She couldn't work for close to 3 months. And she had 2 jobs at that point, and she lost the jobs because, you know, they needed somebody to do the job and she couldn't. And so we started by selling stuff around the house, furniture and things. And eventually we lost the house. We just couldn't afford to stay where we were. So we ended up rolling from here to there, a little friend's house, or the room in a cousin's house, or the, you know, it was, we moved close to 8 times. In the end, we ended up living in an office, doing the dishes in the sink, in the bathroom, and just kneeling on the floor and doing the laundry on the floor of the bathroom. There was no tub. It was just like little floor. We had 2 cots, and I slept with my brother, one up and one down, and my mother slept with my sister, and that's what we did. In order to help mom with some of the expenses and everything, I ended up going to work a few hours. It wasn't full time, but I got permission from the child services to go and work a few hours in a department store, nothing like Macy's or anything like that. It was a very small clothing store. And my job was to go in the dressing rooms and bring the clothes back up and put it where the next customers could find it. So I made a little money. It wasn't that much, but it was enough to buy some rice or beans, or sometimes both, and to just keep keep our lives together. But the nice, I would say, amazing thing was that when I graduated from high school, I still graduated second in my class. One of the things that I learned early on was to be very efficient in studying or doing the work. I had to work, I had to do so much. And, whenever I was doing homework, I got really efficient at getting it done and doing it right the first time. So I didn't have to do it again, and learning while I was doing it. So I didn't have to cram the day before a test or something like that. Anyways, I went to college. I was able to get in the University of Costa Rica, and I registered for the engineering school. I got accepted in the engineering school, and then I had to declare a major, and I wanted to study electrical engineering, and the counselor told me that I couldn't study electrical because I was a woman, and there were not women in the electrical engineering department. So the only ladylike engineering was industrial engineering. So I ended up spending 3.5 years in industrial engineering, and I wasn't doing terrible, but I wasn't excited about it. It wasn't what I wanted. And once you start studying engineering, there are disciplines and there are disciplines, and I really was, fixated in electrical engineering. I love physics as well, but to be a physicist in Costa Rica in that point in time was to be a teacher, and that wasn't my calling, anyways. So when I was about 18 years old, my mother met the only father that I have ever known. He fell in love with mom, married her, and he adopted us legally. My biological father had never recognized us. He went, and we went to the court, and he became the father that we never knew. No father is perfect, but he was the perfect father for us. So anyways, it turns out that Dad had been born in Pennsylvania. And by the time I had spent 3.5 years at the University of Costa Rica, he was seeing my frustration. I'll come home and do and talk, and he'll say, you just sound like you really don't want to do that. And I said, I don't, but I have no choice. And he says, well, you do have a choice. He said, I cannot afford to pay for you to go to school in the US. He had retired really young on disability. He lived off his pension. He worked for NIH until he was 39 years old, and then they pensioned him he got the pension on disability. He had a problem in his back. And he says, I just live out of my pension, and I just cannot afford it. So, but we can go to the embassy. I can help you to get the visa. And he had a house in Manassas, Virginia. And he says, we can just, go there, and you don't have to pay rent or anything like that. But you have to go to work and pay for your school and find a college that is close to the house, and figured it out. And I told him, I have done all of that since I was young. I will figure it out. Let's go to the embassy. He got me the visa, and there I went. Came to the United States. I didn't speak English when I came. I only had the English that I had learned in high school. Which was only like to say, hello, and what is this or what is that? And when people started rattling everything, you lost me. So it took me about 6 months to kind of get enough English and close that loop in my brain to be able to take the TOEFL, the test of English as a second language. And I got a 601 in the test in George Mason, which was the university closest to Manassas, where I lived, which was about 16 miles away. Required 600. So I got one more point that the university needed, which was, barely making it, but I made it. I took all the credits that I brought with me from Costa Rica. 31 credits were recognized. at George Mason, and there I was again, trying again to become an electrical engineer. It was going to take me another 2.5 years, and that meant going full time and going every summer, and working full time, because I did find a job working in a hardware store. And I worked full time, went to school full time, and sometimes I would not even sleep. Sometimes I was just, and my boss at the hardware store was just an amazing person. He would arrange my schedule in a manner that I could go to school. Every semester he'll ask me for my schedule of classes, and he'll arrange my schedule so I could do both, work full time and go to school full time. So I was going to finish in 2.5 years electrical engineering, but then one day I went by the physics building, and I saw this big sign that says, "You want to be a physics major? Are you studying engineering? Stay an extra year, and you can do that." So I figured, at that point, one more year I could do it. Mom and Dad thought I was crazy, but I went ahead and spent the additional year. Then I finally graduated with 2 bachelors, one in physics and one in electrical engineering. And of course, by then I knew that the Goddard Space Flight Center was relatively close to where I lived. Like I said, I lived in Manassas, Virginia, which is in northern Virginia. And I don't know if you can see the cursor on my screen. And the Goddard Space Flight Center is 50
Yes, we can
miles.
see, Sandra. We can.
Okay, great. Yeah. And so if I live here, then Washington, D.C. is really close, to Arlington, Virginia, where I currently live, but anyways, I had to drive all the way from Manassas, all the way through Washington, D.C., around the Beltway, all the way to Greenbelt, Maryland. That was 50 miles from where I lived. So I went to job fair, and to my luck, there were some companies that were contractors for NASA that were hiring. And at that point in time, I could not work for NASA directly because I didn't have the citizenship. I only had the green card. And but if you work for a private company, you can work with a work permit and residency, the green card. And so, I was really happy to be hired by one of the companies. And it was my dream job at that point, being able to work at Goddard and working in instruments. And I started working in labs, of course, and getting my hands dirty building instrumentation. It was just a great experience. So that first job, I started in February the 1st of 1988. Then by March of 89, I was able to get my citizenship. And that's when I started really trying to get to work directly for the agency. And that breakthrough came in February 11th of 1991. And so this past February was my 30th anniversary working for NASA. And it's been an amazing career. Done a lot of great things. Of course, I started from the bottom, working in labs, and slowly, going up through the ranks. And fast forward, since 2016, I have been the deputy director for the Earth Science Division, which is a senior executive position within the agency. So as you can see, NASA is a large agency that covers many states in the United States. And of course, if I count all the contractors that are involved in NASA work, that I might be able to touch all of the states of the United States. And of course, we have a lot of agreements in place with other agencies across the world, so this is a global affair, if you will. But just talking specifically about the centers, we have research centers like Ames and Langley and Glenn, and of course, JPL and Goddard are the only 2 centers that do unmanned missions. The Johnson Space Flight Center, where we train our astronauts and we do the ISS mission control. Kennedy, where we launch our missions, and Marshall and Stennis, help build the rockets as well. And Armstrong, which is our aeronautics center, so it is a large agency of the federal government of the United States, and a very large enterprise. So our mission is, to innovate, explore, discover, inspire. And I hope after I'm done with this talk, you're all going to be a little bit inspired. This is just some of my career highlights and the missions that I have worked on. I have had the opportunity to touch pretty much all of the science aspects that NASA does, and I'll go into that a little bit. But of course, you know, I started from the bottom, like I said, and slowly as I progressed through my career, I was able to get more opportunity to lead missions and be in more responsibility. But NASA covers a lot of science aspects. This is our science fleet. And you know, heliophysics, of course, and planetary and astrophysics and earth science. All of those names that you see in there, the names that are not bolded are names of missions that are currently operational. They are now flying. They are gathering data. They are contributing to our knowledge. We have touched pretty much all of the planets in the solar system. Of course, that studying our sun is important because even the start is dangerous, right? And then we have discovered many exoplanets with our missions in astrophysics. But to me, and the most important thing is earth science, and that is what I have been the large part of my career, actually working on many missions that are observing our planet. And now as the deputy director for the division. And so we have right now 23 operational missions, and we have 16 missions that we are planning on launching in the next few years. And this is another way to look at our fleet and the missions that we currently have, which is very complex. And as I mentioned before, we do have cooperations with interagencies like NOAA and USGS, but also all the cooperation that we have across the world with other space agencies that also have instruments and in satellites and collecting data. Because understanding our planet, it takes a village, it takes the entire world, and we are very interested in understanding our planet as a system. So I'm going to change gears a little bit and talk a little bit about what's a satellite, you know, and I'm sure maybe you'll know better, you know, just this is the MAVEN satellite. I have a lot of information on MAVEN, and I have to say probably was one of my favorite missions that I worked on. It was the last mission that I worked as a deputy project manager, and it takes many years, many people to implement one of these things, and of course a lot of money. In this case, MAVEN's budget was $670 million. We did not use up all the money, thankfully. We were able to, I'm going to say, return in between quotes to the agency about 19% of the budget. The money was used for operations after, but it is, you know, it was an amazing team that stuck to our guns, and we delivered a really cool mission that allowed us to understand how Mars has lost its atmosphere. We worked with our principal investigator, Bruce Jakowski, who had the idea of sending this mission to Mars to try to understand the impact of our sun on the planet, to understand what's happening in the atmosphere that is causing Mars to lose its atmosphere, and of course understand the chemical composition of the Mars atmosphere. So all those instruments that you see below are the instruments that are allowing us to gather that data and provide it. And I'll talk a little bit more about, you know, the launch and all of that for MAVEN. So let me go on in here. So this is a MAVEN in various stages of assembly. The integration with the fuel tank on the upper left image. And just real briefly, there is a lot of fuel in these satellites. With fuel, the satellite was 2,500 kilos. Without fuel, it was only 900 kilos. So you can see, you know, how much fuel there is. And upper right is the satellite completely integrated. Bottom left is getting ready for acoustics test, and the bottom right is doing vibration. And I don't have an image for the thermal vacuum test because you wouldn't see anything anyways. But all those tests are necessary to make sure that the satellite survives the launch and survives in the space after it reaches the space in orbit. one of the most important tests that we do is the deployment of the solar panels. And we have to ensure that they do deploy. That's how the satellite ends up getting its power, and survives in the space. We launch it in the way that you see here, and this is the one of the other final tests that we do is a spin balance test to ensure that everything is completely put together right. The satellite in the end goes encapsulated in the top of the rocket. Here it is a video of us handing our satellite to the rocket team. Those are two separate teams. The rocket team builds the rocket, the satellite teams build the satellite. But we have to make sure that all the interfaces and provide all the information to the rocket team to make sure that they know exactly where that satellite needs to be delivered in space. At that point, when we hand over the satellite to the rocket team, we can only charge the batteries and detect some of the life signs of the satellite. And if we detect something that is not right, of course, we have to take the satellite from the rocket and back to the clean room. And, and sometimes when you hear about a delay or something, it can take days, weeks, months, depending on what it is. So in the end, we want to launch.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Main engine start, ignition, and liftoff of the Atlas V with Maven, looking for clues about the evolution of Mars through its atmosphere.
This was one of the most beautiful launches that I have ever seen. It was a clear day, and we could see it for miles and miles and miles.
Everything looking good, still at 100% rated thrust on the RD-180. Vehicle rates are looking good. We do have roll program in, right as expected. We are actively controlling the mixture ratio. Valve position looks good. Thrust regulator valve position looks good. Speeds are good. And vehicle's operating as expected.
I'm going to stop it right there. So anyways, we launched Maven to Mars on November 18th of 2013. It was the first day of his 20-day launch period. When we are launching a mission to another planet, there is always what we call a planetary window. And when we are launching to Mars, we only have an opportunity every 26 months to be able to do that. And the window is of 20 days. And if we launch on the first day of the window, we have enough fuel to, the satellite doesn't use any fuel getting there, but it does need fuel to slow down once it gets to close to the planet and to enter orbit. And so we have enough fuel to enter orbit and for 10 years of operations. If we launch on the last day of that 20-day window, the satellite only has fuel for getting there in 1 year of operation. So this is very important that we launch at the very beginning of that launch period. And the trip to Mars took 10 months. And if you can see here, the satellite pretty much did a half turn around the solar system. And it's like playing soccer, you're going to kick the ball where the receiver is going to be, not where it is, right? So we kicked that satellite to ensure that it got to the same point in a space where Mars was going to be 10 months later. And that's what we did. Let me see why this back up. Sorry. Back up in here. I kick things too soon. So anyways, and so it was a 10-month trip, and the satellite was captured by Mars as soon as it went by the planet, and it's been operating ever since, doing its job and making a lot of discoveries. Some of the discoveries have been, extrapolating data 4 billion years ago. The rates of escape have pointed that Mars was a planet with water on the surface that had an atmosphere that's probably thick as Earth. It has traces of oceans, lakes, and rivers, if you can see on the surface of the planet. You know, many more discoveries. I encourage you all to go to the main webpage, and everything is being posted in there. In order to save time, I'm going to keep on going. So this is another launch of our missions. Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And liftoff of Sentinel-6, Michael Freilich, continuing a legacy of ocean observation and international collaboration to benefit all humanity.
And I'm going to let you watch this one too, because it's pretty cool.
M1D propulsion is nominal.
Beautiful shot there from the first stage looking down towards Earth. Beautiful clear skies there from Vandenberg on the ground. Able to track with that rocket as you see
and
it on
we
screen now.
recovered the booster here.
Booster separation is there visible on screen now. Beautiful shot.
Stage 1, booster burn is started.
Here it comes. There it is! So perfectly, just hovering. There's the sonic boom.
And next you're going to see deployment
The
of the
entire
satellite.
world is expecting great things from Sentinel-6, and I know that you will deliver. Go
So anyways, yeah.
Sentinel-6.
So that was the last launch that we had in the Earth Science Division. That was November last year, and I'll talk a little bit about what it does. But it is one of our missions that we do in partnership with ESA. It's an altimeter, and it allows us to see the height of the ocean, the water. So we study Earth as a system, and we try to understand all the interactions that are between the atmosphere, the ecosystems, the oceans, the land. Everything is interconnected, and if something happens in Timbuktu, you're going to feel the effects someplace else in the world, and that is what we try to do, is to really understand all the interactions and all the processes that define the Earth system. The next, this is a little bit of a model that we put together on some of the things that we studied. I'm sorry about the Spanish on the left in here. I grabbed the wrong video, but the atmospheric composition, the carbon cycle, the climate change, the water cycle, all the surface or interior and precipitation. And so we take all the data and we run it through our models to be able to visualize some of the interactions and what's happening. So we take data from multiple satellites and try to understand what's happening. So when we talk about climate change, we need missions like Sentinel-6, the last video that I show you with the launch. Jason-3 is a similar type of satellite, and we also need this mission called it's a gravity mission, GRACE. What this mission does, the gravity mission does, is to measure the gravity around the Earth. But how water moves around the Earth affects the gravity. And so we can tell, whether an aquifer is being depleted, whether there is more water in certain part of the world or not, how much water is in the ocean versus a lake, if you see a little dip in here in 2011, you can, we found out that was a lot of rain in Australia. And Australia is built sort of like a little bowl, and a lot of water ended up in Australia. And so the level of the ocean actually went down a little bit because the water was being held by this big bowl, and it slowly was seeping the water, filtering the water through the ocean again after a while, and then the level increased again. And so GRACE measures how the water moves around the Earth, and Jason measures how high is the ocean. And with those two measurements and also the temperature of the ocean, we can tell that the sea level is rising about 3 millimeters per year. And so we can measure it, we can see it from space. We also can see, we also can measure the temperatures. Of course, in 1880, we didn't have any satellites, but we did have temperature measurements across the world. So we were able to collect some of those measurements in order to, add them to this model with the satellite measurements that we have collected since we have space satellites. And as we can see, the temperature has been increasing steadily since that time to the point that, we can see all of the hot spots. The temperature in the water in the ocean has also increased, and the index of thermal expansion causes the water to, the sea level to increase as well. This is a satellite-based passive microwave image of the sea ice. As you can see, during the winter, the sea ice freezes. During the summer, it melts, and so on and so forth. But as we can see, the sea ice has diminished through the years to the point that visually and with data, we can see how much the sea ice has gone down. This graph displays the area of the minimum sea ice coverage each year from 1979 through 2019. I need to update it with the 2020 data, but I haven't done that. I apologize. So, so those are some of the examples of data that we collect, and there is a lot more that we do. We have like I said, a large number of satellites and try to understand Earth as a system. The sea level rise is just one factor, but we understand how much carbon is in the atmosphere. We understand how much methane. So all of those things that we can measure. But with all of the information and all the data that we collect, everything comes back here to Earth. We have an applied sciences program that takes all of that data and helps communities across the world. Disaster response is one of our missions. If there is a hurricane, a fire, a tornado, you name it, NASA is there providing data to the agencies that needed to first responder agencies. We have a program in public health trying to understand, how zoonotic diseases can surface based on changes in precipitation, changes in temperature, anything related to mosquitoes, chikungunya, dengue, malaria, those kinds of things. We can forecast some of those incidents with some of the data that we have. We have a program that helps the agricultural community with soil moisture, understanding whether there is enough moisture in the soil and for planting certain crops, or whether it is drought conditions and that kind of stuff. So I can go on and tell you all of the things that we do. You can visit our NASA pages or science at NASA and see for yourselves all of the value that our mission, not just our science, but in general, NASA adds a lot of value to this world. So I'm going to switch gears and come to the end of my presentation with some advice for all of you. I'm sure that even the oldest of you will take some advice. So the first thing I want to say is that you have to take responsibility for your own life. Doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter, how young or how old you are. If you don't, somebody's going to do it, and their choices may not be what you want for you. And that's what I had to do when I grew up, and what I had to do in the example that my mother gave me. One of the things that I didn't mention at the beginning is that my mother was an orphan. She lost her mother when she was 7, and she lost her father when she was 9. So she had to take care of herself. She had to raise herself. She made a lot of mistakes because she didn't have the guidance of a parent. But I did have her, and I tried to learn from her. And one of the things that she always told me is like, you have to take responsibility for your actions. and the consequences of your decisions. And I have tried to do that. The other thing is identify the dream that pulls you out of your zone of comfort. And sometimes you just have, you're afraid and to move forward, but don't let that fear paralyze you. I still have dreams. I still have things that I want to do. I'm very close to retirement. And, I'm looking forward to what's next. What is the next chapter in my life? And of course, NASA has been my life all these years. But, there are always next steps, so how to tackle those next steps and be afraid, but still do it anyways and continue with your life. And stay the course and be committed and persevere through everything that life throws at you, because life is just, there are so many things that happen, and you just have to keep on going, right? You cannot just roll up in a little ball and go, oh me, oh my. Sometimes you just have to do what it takes. And you have no idea how many people told me that I couldn't do what I'm doing because I was a woman. But I'm not only a woman here, I'm a Hispanic, I have an accent, as you can hear. Early on, I had to really work a little harder than the next guy to demonstrate that I was capable. But here I am. Eventually, I realized that the people who had the worst judgments and perceptions, it was not my problem. It was their problem, and I put the onus where it belongs. I knew what I could do. I know what I don't know too, and that's as important as knowing what you know, by the way. And just be deaf to some people that you just you need to put aside. Stand up for what you believe. Is very important that you always stand up for those things that are the right things to do. Always seek mentors, and more importantly, be a mentor. Doesn't matter where you are in your life, in your career, and anything. Having mentors is important, and the more the merrier, and the more those people are not like you, the better too. And the more they don't tell you what to do, but help you find your own path, the better too. But being a mentor too, and having mentees, and again, not just one, but a couple people that you can, help and listen to, and help them find their own path, is just as enriching. So I encourage you all to find mentees. And of course, network. It is so important. Doesn't matter where you are in your career, having a good network, and never burn any bridges. Even when you have huge disagreements with people, it's important that you never burn those bridges, because this world, after all, is very small, and you never know if you're going to need a recommendation, or you're going to end up working for them, or they're going to end up working for you. And remember that a lot of people are going to be willing to help you, but only if you want to help yourself, and if you have goals, and you are committed to those goals. And it's very easy to be the victim. A lot of people, instead of just being willing to do something about what's going on in their lives and circumstances, they just blame others. The dog ate my homework, or that stuff, or blame somebody else for decisions that they made. But I in the end, we have to own our decisions and the consequences of those decisions. And the last thing is the nature of your birth. That does not dictate the person that we can all become. And you heard I was born in Costa Rica, and here I am. I don't speak English, I speak Spanglish, and but here I am, and I'm doing a lot of things that I love, and work with fantastic people that I love too. Just leaving you with some pictures of my family, because my family is incredibly important to me. It's the most important thing in my life. My mom, my sons, my sister, my brother. I don't have a picture of my brother here, but it is, of course, taking care of myself is as important as taking care of others. And if you're sick or whatever, you cannot take care of others, and you have to take care of your own health. I love cooking, as you can see. And the one person that I give everything and that I owe everything to is my mother. This poem I found online. It's in Spanish. I apologize, but the best that I can do is to have her with me, and she lives with me. I give her everything that I can, and I just want to make sure that at least her last days are comfortable and happy, and you know, I am so blessed that I can have her with me. And finally, we at NASA believe in our mission, but I encourage you all to also believe in yourselves, and then have that compromise with your own lives and your beliefs and your goals. And we could not do anything at NASA if we did not strive forward and really had that commitment. But that applies to your own lives as well. So I'm done. I will take any questions. And
beautiful, Sandra. I was also very close to my mother, so saying this poem, I got like all emotional. It's beautiful. I have a quick question myself, and then I will open the floor. How did you, through the challenges coming to US, how you found the network and the mentor, and not the mentors, but the role models to guide you? As I struggle with similar issues when I came as immigrant. You can tell my accent.
well, I
But
didn't.
it's, yeah.
I mean, I didn't really have any network at the beginning. I had to make it, and I started with the people that I worked with at the hardware store. They became my network at first. They were very helpful. My boss was just incredibly understanding, and he knew of my struggles. He knew that I was going to school. He knew that I was trying to improve myself, and in spite of my English and in spite of everything, he gave me the opportunity to work as a cashier in the hardware store. But then once I started going to college, my classmates, and I have to say in particular, a couple of friendships that I developed there, and I'm still in touch with them. They were very key, to have that support, people that you talk to, that help you, that at least listen to you, when you need, just to be listened to. And of course, as you go in your life, in your career, the family and everybody, of course, my mother was always there. My mother was my number one. And if I had any issues, if I had any questions, if I had any shoulder to cry on, it was my mother, so it is.
Yeah, for me too. Was very, it's very, very close. Anybody has any question for Sandra? You can put in the chat and we'll call you. While you're thinking, I will ask another question. Is on challenges. What were the challenges, or that, especially earlier coming to US, that you felt maybe you've done it differently, or in advice to another girl, if it's not in Costa Rica, back in Brazil or whatever, another, or in India, thinking to come, that you faced, and I don't know.
Well, I mean, getting that first job without speaking English was a very big tall pole, a very big challenge. And and I am really grateful for my boss at the hardware store who saw through the fact that I could, and that I was trying, and but I had many no's before that. I went through to a lot, knocked on a lot of doors to try to find work, and everybody shut the door in my face because I couldn't speak English well. And he took a chance on me, so that was very very challenging. In the school, it was only 3 of us women in the electrical engineering program in George Mason, and I remembered in one class, one professor came and without even knowing us or anything, he just went and said, you and you are not going to be here at the end of the semester. And we banded together, and we worked so hard. We got the best grades in that class. We showed him that we could. And then at work, the first couple of jobs, one guy just came right out and said, I don't know why they have stupid women working in this project who cannot even speak English. He said it out loud, and he not even knew me. He didn't know how to, I've been confused with the secretary. I don't know many times, you know, and if you don't know who I am, you know, with a last name like Cauffman, you know, you imagine that is somebody who was born here. I adopted my husband's last name when I married him. So I've been a Cauffman for 33 years. This month we're celebrating our 33rd anniversary. One time, I just a little story. I was the director for the formulation office at Goddard, and I came to set up a projector in the morning because they hadn't set up things, you know, for the meeting that I had called. And you know, so I was there like 15 minutes before the meeting, and this guy walks in, and instead of saying good morning, how are you, I'm so and so, whatever, he just went and said, can you give me a cup of coffee? You know, this is like in the 90s. And, you know, so I looked at him and I said, the coffee's around the corner, and while you're at it, give me a cup too. And so he goes puffing and puffing and comes back with his coffee, didn't say anything. I just let him go, went to my office, and 10 minutes later, I came into the room where everybody was gathered, and I introduced myself, and I looked straight at him, and he almost went under the table. And I went through the meeting, did what I had to do. At the end of the meeting, he still had the courage to come and say, I'm sorry, but I thought you were the secretary. And I looked at him and I said, is that how you treat people? It doesn't matter if I had been the secretary. The polite thing to do is to at least introduce yourself, say, thank you, ma'am. Can you please give me, you tell me where the coffee is? I would have been really happy to give you a cup of coffee. But you know, even the people who clean our floors and take care of our, you know, everything, you have to respect everybody because they also contribute to the work that we do. And it doesn't matter where people come from, you have to be respectful. And you know, so he was changing colors like crazy anyways.
Yes. I think all of us, I just in the chat, Heather is saying, I had the same stories, so many. I was going also, I had more questions, but let me see if somebody else, I don't want to monopolize the questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see any questions. The rocket doesn't play music. That is music added to the video. Yeah,
that is great.
We did have a lot of cameras on that last one. That was a really cool, you know, set of cameras that we mounted on the last one. Yeah.
So I had other question. I asked other speakers that came, how much of Costa Rica you brought in back to US, or how much, as you say in Portuguese, saudade is a missing of the old country you still have. I feel that no matter I'm being in US 20 years, I still carry in my pocket of missing saudades of Brazil, no matter where. And it's part of shape how I do science. So I was wondering.
Yeah, you know, so and I have to say, you know, I left Costa Rica, but Costa Rica didn't leave me. And one of the, you know, of course, the food and the customs and a lot of things, you know, Costa Ricans are very, very warm people, not because, you know, I'm from there, but, you know, we tend to be very, very gracious, and, you know, we like to hug a lot. And it's sometimes I have to resist the urge to hug somebody right out of the first, you know, because that's kind of how I was brought up. But being on earth science, to me, is sort of a sense of pride too, because Costa Rica, even though it's a small country, tiny out there, you know, it's probably the size of West Virginia. That's what I think. It is one of the biggest countries in the world that is trying to do, you know, become net zero and do renewable energy and trying to preserve the environment. They have more the national parks and protection areas per capita than any other country in the world, you know. And so being from Costa Rica and being on earth science is just you know, an incredible feeling. So yeah. So any other comments, questions? Can you show the data? I don't think I have seen recent data. I don't have the recent data on that plot. I stopped everything at 2019. I have to add the most recent one. Sorry. I need to go and update it. I need to download the more recent videos.
Sorry, my now I hope I'm okay. I'm okay. my mouth froze. Yeah, I was just going to
Yeah.
say that I visited Costa Rica. It's a beautiful country. Yeah.
But I was gonna add to the gentleman who asked about the sea ice plot again. You can get, if you go to the NASA Science Visualization site, you can just Google it. You can get there and look for a lot. It's open to the public, by the way, and the media and everything, so people can go and look through.
Good. Myra
what's
put it
available.
earthdata.nasa.gov.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Myra. Yeah.
So, folks, thank you so much. We are trying, by the way, Sandra, within SHIELD, especially for phase 2, to have a broader network of mentorship. I think that the point you talked about, mentorship, is so critical, and it's going all the levels, and even having, and we had a webinar that Heather run on trying to find a mentor. I went through a similar experience of yours, having to knock on doors when you come to feel that you're not brought up in, you don't even know where to find the mentors, and navigating that maze to try to find somebody that can help you with that is critical.
Yeah,
So
absolutely,
I very much appreciate that you mentioned that. Anybody has last thought? We have 4 more minutes.
I have something. I
Yes,
also
please,
think
Heather.
the advice about mentorship was very good, and hard work coupled together. If people see that you're somebody that's willing to put work in to help yourself, they often will give you good mentorship advice. And it's not like, sometimes the people you work the most closely with don't make the best mentors because they don't have the most objective view. So sometimes you have to go a little broader field to get good mentors.
Yeah, that is true. And you have to go out and also try not to get people that think like you. We have this tendency to find, soulmates kind of thing, people like that. But sometimes you have to be uncomfortable a little bit with the people that are mentoring you, that people that can help you see your blind spots.
Of
Because
course,
if you find somebody who's just like you, they're not going to help you find your blind spots and try to figure it out, together how to solve or address some of those blind spots.
Be in that uncomfortable zone.
Yeah.
And changes can happen. I couldn't agree more. Fantastic seminar. Thank you so much, Sandra. It brought me to tears, especially you showed your mother picture. I was like, yeah. There is an image like that with Isabel Allende. I don't know if you saw, with her mother saying that she is my best friend, and it's a beautiful a picture like that. Anyway, it was delightful. And so people, please go to the chat. Nick put the survey, and you can give us feedback and suggestions for future webinars. And gracias.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it, and very nice to meet you all, even if it's names a little face. Really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Bye.
Okay. Bye.